Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Zone TV, a live broadcast on YouTube. I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and I have an awesome guest. Returning to the show for the fourth time is my very favorite and wonderful friend, Bill Bean. Bill Bean is a best-selling author and a victim of demonic forces. He is a spiritual warrior, a spiritual deliverance minister, and a media personality. Bill Bean is seen on Discovery Channel, Coast to Coast, SYFY, Destination America, Lifetime Movie Network, and TLC's A Haunting, and many others. Bill Bean's latest book, The Connection, hold on, I'll show you the book, is a very powerful account of spiritual warfare, a triumph over tragedy, and chronicles enduring extreme hardships and tragedies from Bill's childhood all the way to his adult years. His family was destroyed by demonic forces, and Bill nearly as well. The Connection will show you how to transform your life through a strong personal relationship with God, dealing with spiritual warfare. The book includes Bible passages, spiritual warfare prayers, affirmations, and also there's a 10 steps list in there to employ into your everyday life, and I'll show you those, and hopefully Bill will go over those steps with us. So everybody, let's welcome Bill to the show. Hey Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Noreen. It's an honor and a pleasure to be back with you, and it's always great to be on with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, you know what, Bill? There may be some people that are viewing the show for the first time that don't know about your story. And this all started, where you are now, all started from you when you were a little boy. So can you go over what happened to you and the family? And also, you know what? I have the pictures that you talk about from your book, The Dark Force. The spirit that was behind your mom, the double spirits with you. So I'd like to show those while you're talking about, and I have a picture of the family, and I also have a picture of that energy image that you have in the sky that you use with your book. So as you're talking about how this all started, I'm going to show those, okay? Can you do that, please?
Okay. Sure, fantastic. And again, I want to thank you for having me on, and thank everybody out there for listening in and watching. And I've often said that I couldn't be here where I am right now in helping others had I not been there. So it was a necessary part of the journey for me to have to go through and experience some of these things. And, you know, I've written 4 books, and the first book, which is called Dark Forest, I talk about how it all began. And, you know, I say in Dark Forest that it began in 1970, but it actually goes much further back. I found out that after I'd written the book from a family member, and I don't have a whole lot of family left, but I found out that many years ago, some family members actually conjured up these demonic forces, and they came through, and they came upon the family with a vengeance and created a variety of destruction. And it was certainly as if a family curse had developed, and it was one horrific thing after another, and that pattern went on for many years. So, you know, in the book, I say that it began when my family and I moved into this 3-bedroom ranch-style home located in Glenburnie, Maryland, in a community called Herondale. But again, you know, I found out that it went much further back than that. And I also found out that my mother and her siblings had many paranormal, supernatural experiences in their childhood as well. So she had, previous exposure to this, and also their family moved around quite a bit. And at one point, she actually lived in that very area of Herondale, you know, where the house sat. So she had, prior exposure to what was taking place down there. And I say that, you know, looking back on this, that it was a combination of evil. Really, we were in the middle of this perfect storm where evil was already they were doing okay, and to my knowledge, didn't have any really bad supernatural things taking place. However, I would discover years later, somewhere around 2005, after my sister had given me some old family photographs, that supernatural activity was taking place in photographs before we moved into the house. And I found several photos of myself at the age of 2 in 1968. And again, now this is 2 years before moving into the house there in Glen Burnie in Arendelle. My sister and I, Christmas time of 1968, were seated behind a toy piano. My sister was to my left, and her far left was what appears to be in the photo a very tall, hooded being, a black hooded figure in the photograph. And this is 1968. So then another photograph I found was taken in 1969, a Polaroid photograph of me at the age of 3. And in the photo, there were many other types of beings, and there were humanoid beings standing behind me in single file, different heights. And then there were many other types of beings. It was as if a dimensional doorway was opened, and all these beings came through. And above my head, it looked like the face of a lion. To my left appears to be, and you really have to look and stare at this photo, and the more you look at it, the more you stare at it, you'll see them. To my left in the photograph appears to be a 3.5 foot tall gray alien looking thing.
Now, Bill, is that the picture you're talking about that has like the brown background and there's like 3 images?
Yes, to where it's like in front of the bushes and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
okay. I'm going to show that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then beside that appears to be a Bigfoot-looking creature. And so there are many different faces and humanoid-looking pigs, and I mean just many pigs in this shrubbery that I was standing in front of. And so that was quite startling, to say the least, when I started going through some of these old photographs that I never knew existed. And so it shows a pattern that, something absolutely paranormal, supernatural was taking place before we moved into the house. And then once we moved into the house, and things amplified and magnified because of the presence of evil that was already in the house and then on and around the area. And interestingly enough, there's a structure located just 2 miles south from where the house that we lived in was and still is. And that structure is in the middle of the woods, and it looks like it was something that was just placed there. It's a gigantic boulder-like structure called the Wishing Rock. And a good friend of mine, John D. Romine, did some research. He's a former Anne Arundel County police officer and retired, and became an author and wrote a book, and wrote a book about the area. And in the book, he talks about going back and doing historical research, and through his research, according to him, Native American tribes to gather and worship at this Wishing Rock structure, saying that it had supernatural powers, and perhaps it was a gateway or a vortex or something like that. And maybe that is the source point for the demonic activity that has taken place in the area over the years. And I mean, on a very large scale, for such a small area, there was a lot of bad things that took place over many years in the area, and many that had these paranormal supernatural experiences. And I didn't realize how many until after I'd written Dark Force. And then a lot of people that I knew back then that lived in the area started sending me their stories about what they went through in their homes as well. And furthermore, I've been back there on several occasions as a deliverance minister, spiritual warrior now, on behalf of others who have been suffering from demonic problems, in the homes, and it's certainly, again, coming from what I believe certainly could be that Wishing Rock area. So, that said, the house, again, was semi-dilapidated. It was very ominous and foreboding from the outside, but deeply so on the inside. You would walk in through the front door into the dimly lit living room. The house was always dark on the inside. The walls were almost black. It was a dark brown paneling, and I'm sure some of the photographs you're showing now, the viewers and listeners can't see what I'm talking about in looking at that dark brown paneling on the walls. So the house was very dark, even on the brightest of days. And you would come into the living room, you would make a right down a long hallway, and that was a hard tile floor. And I recall many times laying in bed and hearing footsteps coming down that hallway, heavy footsteps, whether it be from boots or hard-soled shoes or whatever, but whatever it was, it would reverberate off of that paneling. And let's just say that sleeping was quite a challenge in that house over the years. And my mother was the first to have an experience, and it took place not long after moving in. And my dad had taken us, my older sister Patty, my younger brother Bobby, with him for the day over to his parents' house. And so he wanted to get us out of there so she could concentrate on doing what she had to do with unpacking and organizing without us being under her feet. And so it was during the course of this that, again, she's alone in the house at this point. And it was during the course of that she could feel a presence, and she thought that it was my dad sneaking back into the house to play a joke on her. And so she spun around, fully anticipating on seeing him, and to her shock, nothing was there. And so she was unnerved by it, and she was perplexed and taken aback and everything else by it. And, was eventually able to go back to doing what she was doing, and then my sister's bedroom door slammed shut by itself, and that was enough to make her go outside and wait until we returned. So, again, as you would go down that long hallway, my brother and I shared the first room on the right. My parents had the second room on the right, and my sister's room was the last room on the left. And that is the room that I believe was the main portal in the house. So that's the room where the door would open and slam for many repetitions at a time, many times over the years.
Wow. Well, now, what about this image that is behind your mother, that black image? She's on the phone.
Yeah, and again, the image, if you really look at that, there's this rectangular mirror behind her. And so you not only see that, but if you look into the oval-shaped mirror, which is reflecting in there, you see the face of this. It's a very large face that looks like an alien, some type of alien-looking being right in the mirror. And then if you look even harder, you can see what, again, appears to be a 3 feet or 3.5 feet tall, gray-looking alien thing standing right beside her, because you can see the flash of the camera coming off of its head.
Oh my God, it's so creepy.
Yeah, that was 1975 in the house. So, and my mom, often remarked about, so if you're coming into the house through the front door, if you went straight through, that would take you, into the living room, and then into a small dining room, and then a small kitchen was off to the right off of that. But, going straight through from the front door, you would go right to the back door, through the dining room. And so my mother, often while washing dishes in the evenings after dinner, would look out the back window in the kitchen, and that would be facing the ravine. And she would talk about seeing these blue lights that would go and descend into that ravine. Many occasions that she remarked about this. So there was definitely some sort of connection going on there with, and this is why, I've said many times that I believe that these things are connected. Most people can't grasp this, but trust me, as someone who has had experiences with all of these things, I can assure you that they are, in fact, connected.
Yes, and we did a show on that. Do you remember?
Oh, really?
Yes, we did a show on that, and I will. That was a really good show. And also, everybody, we also did a show on Dark Force, the book Dark Force. And underneath this video, I will have the links to those other shows, and I will also make a playlist of shows with Bill Bean, because the shows are fascinating that Bill Bean has aired on my channel. Now, Bill, there's another.
Thank you, Noreen.
You're welcome. Hey, you know what? There's another picture. It has a brownish background, and then this image in the middle. Is that a UFO that you guys took a picture of?
Now, okay, so I can't see you right now because my Skype thing is down, so I can't see what picture you're putting up. Is there some sort of description on the picture or here? Or?
It's a ghost. It said Bill Bean's ghost. It's the image, the background is brown, and then there's this white spot, kind of long in the middle of the picture.
Yeah, I don't know. I've taken so many, either photographs that have been taken of me or the family, way back, or after January of 1995, I began to take hundreds and hundreds of photographs of paranormal, supernatural, UFOs, all these things. So I have so many different photographs, and I had a bunch of them on, and I'm going to put some back up there soon on BillBeanMinistries.com, and I need to add them back to the photo gallery. And God only knows, Noreen. I mean, I'm going to try and find you somehow so if I can get a live feed or something to see this, and then I can tell you exactly what it is.
Well, underneath it, when I captured it, it said Bean-Ghost.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. There's just so many of them. It's hard to say, and so it's just something that looks white in the center.
Yeah, it's oblong white image in the middle of this brown background, and it's kind of like something was shining off onto the right hand side when you're looking at it. So I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting, and not sure which one it is, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, give the wrong description of the photograph, but there are so many that it's mind-boggling. I mean, I got to the point to where it was just a regular occurrence, and certainly the supernatural activity that took place in the house became a regular occurrence over all those years, and it's mind-boggling in itself, and it wasn't until I sat down and wrote Dark Force that the gravity of it all, I guess, really just hit me that I couldn't believe that we endured it for so long, and we've become almost numb to it in a sense, to where I guess you get conditioned after a while into acceptance of even horrific things such as that. And so that's the only way that I could really describe or say that or have any kind of understanding as to how we endured it for so long. And it had gotten worse after my dad left us. He left in 1975, and after he left, my mother came under regular physical attack from these demonic entities, and I was attacked many times as well throughout my childhood. But prior to my mother coming under that physical attack from the entity, she was coming under regular physical attack from my dad, I'm sorry to say, at the time, between 1973 and 1975. So my mother truly suffered more than any other person I've ever seen in my life.
Bill, so was this house was near American Indian land then? And
Yeah.
Was there any kind of curses going on from those American Indians? Was there a curse put on the land? Why were those houses affected? Why were all those families affected?
I really do believe, without truly knowing the answer, I really do believe that it was some sort of cursed land because I recall a dream that I had, and this was as a child. I would say it was probably, I would have to say somewhere around 7 years old. And this, Noreen, I never forgot this dream. This was certainly had to be the most vivid dream, one of the most vivid that I can remember in my life. And in the dream, I was on this white horse, and I was some sort of cavalry, soldier or something, an officer. And I'm on this horse, and this Indian, Native American, is approaching on his horse and fires an arrow, and it went right through me. And I could feel this, what I interpreted as blood coming up. So something actually came up in my mouth when I woke up. I'm sure it was just acid or something from my stomach. But it literally came up in my mouth. And when I woke up, I was just traumatized from just that dream alone, coupled with all the torments that we were going through, during that time period. But I'll never forget that. That was, so perhaps, without really knowing the answer, those grounds are cursed, and they certainly were cursed lands. And through the dream, perhaps it was Native Americans letting me know, or demonic forces masquerading as them, letting me know that that there was an intrusion, and there was certainly danger because of that. And it's interesting that there were other people in the neighborhood that, again, after I'd written Dark Force, people that I haven't seen in years and years and years, reached out to me and sent me messages about some of their experiences. And sure enough, some of the supernatural encounters did feature a Native American, either on the land or going to the home.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Now, so the whole family was affected by these demonic unseen forces. How has it affected their life? Now you guys were in that house, Bill, you were in that house for 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years, and that's why I say it's hard to fathom suffering something like that for so long. But then I think your mind becomes conditioned into acceptance, even though horrific things are taking place. I said it's like being prisoners in a POW camp. You just get conditioned through the daily abuse, and then it becomes commonplace, and you really expect it. And that's how that was the mindset for us. And at some point we'd all become zombie-like as well, to where it was very difficult to have any type of loving dialogue anyway. I mean, I could show you a ton of pictures, and there's only 2 that I found out of all of the family photographs that my sister had given to me. And 2 photos out of, probably a couple hundred, to where you would see the family smiling and happy. And in one of those photographs, and you may have this photo, this one was taken in 1974 in the house. And it's the only happy family photograph that I've ever seen taken from inside of the house. And in the photo, my parents, my sister, my little brother, myself, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, Dora Harvey, she was in the photograph. My dad is on the end. So if you're looking at my dad, over his left shoulder is the back door. Oh. And in front of the back door, you see this large face with these. You can see the eyes, you can see the nose. It's right there. And furthermore, Noreen, if you could find this photo, not only is there a large face in the door, but there is on the wall to the left, so it would be the start of the hallway. So on the dark brown paneled wall there shock, you will see an alien-looking head right in there.
Wow, I don't have that picture.
I'll have to send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Well,
I
you
was
know,
taken in the house in 1974.
you know, in that show that we did on your book, Dark Force, I showed a lot of pictures, and it might be in that show. So,
I'm going to see if I can find it. If I can find it real quick, I'll send it over to you.
All right.
If not, then I'll send it over to you after the show. And please, whatever I send to you, feel free to post it. You can do anything that you want with it. And it's okay. I found the photo right here.
Okay, well, you know what, Bill? Okay, this is what I'll tell you. This is, why don't you come back again when you have time? Gather up all your photos, because the book on Dark Force is the most fascinating. I mean, that story is so unbelievable. It's just mind-boggling. And if you want to gather up as many photos as you want to talk about that time of your life, and we'll go through and we'll show all the pictures, and you can talk about them. That would be awesome, and show them to the viewers. If you want to do that, just let me know.
I think that would be a fantastic idea, and after the show, we'll have to set a date, maybe next month, if you're, whatever date could work for you, and certainly with my schedule is nonstop now, but I'll make time because I always enjoy coming on with you, and I appreciate your viewers and listeners out there. And so I think it's a great idea that you proposed there, that we really should present 20 or 30 of these photographs and just go through it and present them as they were taken and the story behind them. And I think it would be fascinating for people to see.
Well, your story is, oh my God, you guys, Bill's story is, all his books that he has written, you have to buy them. They're absolutely, oh my God, they're unbelievable. They're awesome books. Bill, so you turned to God. How old were you when you left that house?
I was 4 when we moved into the house, and my parents believed in God, but we didn't have any faith-based background. They didn't attend church, and we'd never been baptized or anything like that, so we really didn't have any religious structure yet. I always had this blind faith in God. I recall one time as a child, again, I would say that I was probably, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 years old, and I was in my bedroom, and I would say it was probably around this time at night, maybe 8:45, 9 p.m. at night, and I recall saying out loud that, God, if you are real, make a horn blow. And Noreen, I'm telling you, I'll never forget this. It was in seconds of me saying this. Now again, the house was located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac, so there were only a few houses on this street. I'm thinking real quick in my mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 houses on the street. And, again, it's like this horseshoe. And within seconds of me saying that out loud, a car horn blew. Now, we're talking somewhere around 9 o'clock at night, and this is back in the 70s, and that car horn clearly blew, and that was it for me as far as I never ever questioned God again after that. And even, a lot of people have said, well, how in the world could you believe in God or whatever? All those horrible things happened to you and your family and all that stuff. Well, that wasn't God's fault. And there are, even though we didn't do anything to deserve all of that, there were choices made that opened the door for that garbage to come through. And, had I known then what I know now, it certainly would have been a whole different story. But I go right back to what I said when we started the show. Everything in life happens for a reason. Yeah. And I think the reason for those things happening to us, in large, is due to God having me to go through those types of experiences to be where I'm at right now so I can help other people. So it was all part of the journey. Are there things that I wish I could change? You better believe it, especially when it comes to the suffering of my mother. But I can't change it, and so I must move forward. And this is what I preach to people now, is that Yesterday is dead. Yesterday is gone. Yesterday is not coming back. So we have to focus on today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So life is all about moving forward. So it is the devil who tries to, he reverses everything that God does. So he puts everything in reverse. So he tries to not only keep us from moving forward, but he tries to drag us backward. So it took me many, many years to really, truly make God first and to develop this type of faith, strength, and courage that I have now, and it's by the power of God. I don't claim to have any special powers or anything like that. It's all the power of God that works through me, and I can never thank him and praise him enough for that. But, after many hardships and certainly suffering, all the things that I did suffer, my family suffered. My family was destroyed. My dad left us in 1975. He left us, and let me say, my dad did a lot of bad things, and the devil was there to aid and abet in all those bad choices that he did. But I love my father, and I forgive my father, and he was a good man who just made some bad choices. And in the Connection book, I say, he was a winner in every way and in every aspect in life, but his victory was robbed from him by the choices that he made, and with the devil's influence in aiding and abetting in those choices to amplify and magnify them, in horrific ways. So his life was destroyed, and in turn our lives were destroyed as well. So neither of my parents lived to see the age of 50. My mother died at the age of 44 from a cerebral hemorrhage, and I have no doubt, Noreen, that this was a direct result of the continued torment and attacks that she was enduring for so many years at the hands of those demonic entities. And this occurred 2 months after the sudden passing of my beloved grandmother, Dora Harvey, my mother's mother. She died of a sudden series of heart attacks at the age of 64. And at the time, these were the two closest people to me in my life, because, when my dad started physically abusing my mother, my dad was a man that was used to being in control of every situation. He was a man's man. He was a very rugged individual, but he had a great heart. He was blessed with everything, necessary to be highly successful in life. And he suddenly found himself in a situation that he couldn't control with these supernatural occurrences taking place. And I do believe that his escape was through alcohol. Now, my parents were social drinkers, and they had these parties, and that's what you did back then, in the 70s. And you'd have these house parties, these family gatherings and all this stuff. But then, not long after moving in, with these occurrences taking place, his alcohol intake steadily and rapidly increased to the point to where it just ruined his life, and he became this raging alcoholic who, physically abused my mother on a regular basis, and I very much hated him for a long time. And so my mother and grandmother were the two closest people to me in my life at that time. And strangely enough, and I don't know if we ever talked about this before, but probably 6 months before my grandmother had passed, and again, my mother passed 2 months after that, I was at my grandmother's house, and another very horrible dream that I had, and this would be right there with the other dream that I described to you as, most vivid and certainly most troubling that I've ever had. I had this vision, and this, whether you want to call it premonition or prophetic dream that God gave to me, or whatever you want to say, I had this dream of my grandmother and mother being gone, and dying and leaving this earth. And I recall waking up and asking God to take me instead of them, because I wouldn't be able to bear it without them. And so that was about 6 months before these events took place. And when they did take place, it was horrific, just to say the least. It was very, very difficult, and I got to the that's where I was, and I was that way for a long time until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And one day I had an epiphany that I actually could do better and be better, and I decided to make some changes in my life, and the number one change was to make God first in my life. And once I did that, it wasn't an automatic change, because we as human beings, we get accustomed to our ways, and we get set in our ways and our patterns and our habits, so it's very difficult to step out of that into something new. And so for me, it was 2 steps forward and 3 steps backward for a while. But the more that I was showing true faith in God, and the more that I was really seeking a relationship and a strong connection with God, the closer He came to me, and the more He led me, and the more He filled me, and the more He empowered me. So this is a gradual transformation, but once the transformation took place, I never looked back. And I started a lot of study, and something that I failed to mention was that, after these deaths took place of my mother and grandmother, I quit school in the 8th grade, and I had to lie about my age, and I went to work for a construction company, and I was a skinny kid that suddenly was in a man's world, and I had to grow up very, very quickly, and it made me a very tough young man, that's for sure. And so I had to, make some big changes there, and so this caused a variety of problems as well, because there was a lot of bitterness and anger within me. So this was all part of a transformation that took place. And the more I trusted in God, the more I made God first in my life, the stronger my faith got. And with that, I decided to dedicate myself to studies. And so I started studying the Bible, the 66 books of the King James, and there's 534 other books that were left out. I studied a lot of them, and I studied ancient religions and ancient history, and you name it. I mean, I studied it to try and broaden my intellect, because knowledge is power. And so the more I did this, the more confidence I had, and I was really thankful to God for helping me through all this, and for really building me up in mind, body, and spirit. And so then my wife and I had gotten baptized in 2008, and that's where the real transformation took place. After that baptism, we were blessed, sanctified, purified, cleansed, and made holy by God, and it was time for a new chapter, a new season. So together, we decided to make God first, in our life. And let me tell you, we have not looked back, and God has blessed us in so many ways. It continues to do so, and I can never thank Him and praise Him enough for that. So, as this has progressed, and it wasn't long after the baptism that God had put a calling on my life, and that calling was that I could go and help other people. So as you know, my story aired on A Haunting, the original Bean story, aired on September 7th, 2006. And it's one of the most watched and rebroadcast episodes in the history of that series. And to this day, they're still showing it, and I received worldwide attention. I mean, I was getting...
That's how I found out about you. I was watching it one day, and I asked my paranormal team. I said, "Oh my God, did you see that on Hauntings, Bill Bean? Do you guys know who Bill Bean is?" That was.
Isn't that amazing? And since that time, and in the beginning, people would contact me and tell me, their problems that they were having, and I would refer them to, I couldn't be of any help to anybody back then. I was not on my journey that I'm on now. And it was amazing, though, Noreen, because after the baptism had taken place, I felt like God was putting a calling on my life, that I could actually go and help people. And I thought at first, he must be mistaken. He's got the wrong guy. There's no way that I could possibly go and be a help to anyone. And so I was in that mindset for the longest time. And then as I continued in my studies, and I continued to build my confidence, and more people were contacting me for help, I prayed about it. And I said, Father, if you're truly calling me to do this, I guess I'm ready now. And it wasn't long after that I went to the first victim and client, and after that, my goodness, I've lost count of how many people God has worked through me to help. I've helped people in 40 different countries around the world. It is mind-boggling, Noreen, and this is the power of God. And again, I can never thank Him and praise Him enough for what He has done, for what He is doing, and for what He is going to do for me. So, as this time has gone by, I've been blessed with the power from God to be able to write these books. And it's such a great thing when you write a book and people come back to you and say, wow, you really touched my life. Or in some instances, you're certainly with this new book, people are saying you've changed my life. And that is the power of God. So I'm not on here trying to sell a book. Yes, it's great to sell books. That's wonderful. And I'm thankful for that. But I've said this on many other shows, and I'm going to say it on your show right now. If there are people out there who cannot afford to buy my book, well, then send me an email, and I will send you a free internet PDF copy, because it's important that you read this. It is super important. It is super urgent, especially the times that we're in right now. Now is the time to make your close connection with God. Make God first in your life. I'm not trying to hit you over the head with the Bible. I'm speaking truth. I'm talking about a real connection, for you and with God. This is something, in my opinion, that is lacking nowadays, and it's something that is the number one thing that a person should be doing because of the days and times that we're in. So I have outlined in the book 10 simple steps to follow that can not only reinforce your connection and relationship with God, but can help you to move forward into being a blessing to others. So step 1 is making God first. We just covered that. And step 2 is following the path and the teachings of Jesus, YAHWEH. Step 3 is building your faith. If we can get into that strong faith, and I call this warrior mode, Noreen, to where I'm strong in faith, strength, and courage, and I have to be each and every day of my life, because I have to be somebody to somebody every day of my life. The messages never stop, the texts never stop, the calls never stop, and I really think that this will probably be something that goes on for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that, because it's the greatest thing in the world to know that God actually worked through me to help somebody and to make a positive difference in their life. So praise God for it. And then number 4 is forgiveness. And Jesus talked about this many times, that we must forgive, and you'll be forgiven. It is essential and so important that we do forgive, because when we go around hating people, it's a spiritual poisoning. So forgiveness is every bit as much for us as it is the person that we're forgiving. So I was so thankful that I was able to forgive my dad for everything before his untimely death. He was shot to death at the age of 48 in 1987. So I'm so thankful that I was able to forgive him and have a form of a relationship with him before his untimely death. And then step 5 is finding your purpose in life. It's the greatest thing in life to know what your purpose is. And I know for me, it certainly filled me in ways that I can't even put into words, in knowing that this is my purpose and my calling in life, to be somebody to go and help people, and to always be there for people, and to try and help them in any way that I can by the power of God. So I'm very, very thankful for it. And then step 6 is using the power of positive thinking. Now, this takes me right back to where I was, back in those days after the tragic deaths of my mother and grandmother, and many other family members as well, Noreen. Most of my family is gone and have died under very tragic and suspicious circumstances over the years. But back in that day and time, I can recall waking up and proclaiming that my day was going to be horrible. And by that proclamation, that becomes an invocation. So we have to be careful of what we speak, because just as God, YAHWEH, spoke the world into existence, well, we can speak things into existence as well when he created us, he left a little piece of himself inside of each and every one of us, and we have great power. So we too can speak things into existence, and we have to be very careful on that. And I, again, recall many days speaking as I'm waking up that I'm going to have a horrible day, and guess what? I did have a horrible day. So now the power of positive thinking rules in my life and in my thinking, and so each and every day when I open my eyes, I thank God and praise God for the day. And oftentimes I don't get to bed before 4, sometimes 5 a.m. every morning. I don't care how tired I am. I don't care how stressed out I am. I say 2 prayers. The first is a spiritual warfare prayer, which is in the book, The Connection. And the second, which is also in the book, is a daily victory prayer. I declare victory in every day of my life, and I will continue to do so for the rest of my life. And most people don't realize, Noreen, that God works a miracle for us every day, every single day, because every day we open our eyes, it's the miracle of life. So I praise God for that miracle and for his gift each and every day. So step 7 is setting goals. For me, setting goals is essential because I call it outlining and defining. And as a young boy, I recall visits to Florida. Well, not as a young boy. It was after my mother had passed, because my brother had gone to live with my dad in Florida, and I made a visit down there. And I'll never forget one day raking leaves with my cousin Philip, and Philip kept saying to me, outline and define. And it really didn't resonate with me then, because I did not want to be raking leaves. But let me tell you, it resonates with me now, and it has played a big part in my life, in my setting of goals and preparation for things. And so in writing my books, I have to outline and define that. So in writing a book, you have to outline and bring all the information in, and then you have to shape that. You have to define that into a story. And so those are words that have stayed with me for my entire life. They have really helped me in my mindset in setting goals for things. And step 8 is giving to others. It is essential that we give with a glad heart. And if we do such a thing, if we're giving to others, not expecting anything in return, God will bless us in so many different ways for us being selfless and having a good and a kind heart to our friend or our neighbor in giving. And then step 9 is being grateful for everything. I am so grateful and thankful to God for everything. I don't go around saying, oh boy, I wish I had this, or why can't I have that? I'm thankful for the things that I do have and for the blessings that I do have. And then step 10 is walking in that faith, strength, and courage, what I call warrior mode. And if you can get to that step 10 and walk into that type of faith, strength, and courage, your life will change, and you'll never look back, and you'll only look forward. So there you go, 10 simple steps to navigate through life, and they are very powerful, and they are very effective, because I use them and will do so for the rest of my life.
And I did have that list up, Bill, while you were talking.
Love it.
I had that up. Okay, Bill can't stay. He has to leave, and the hour will be up in about 4 minutes. But Bill, can you take a couple of questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much again, Noreen. I mean, I always enjoy being on with you, and I knew this was going to go by fast, and I apologize that I can't stay longer. I'm just so overwhelmed. So many people contact me from so many different places, and I always try to be there for everybody. And so it gets challenging at times, but I do the best that I can do. And I hope maybe the next time I come back, I can stay for 2 hours with you as we go through all those pictures. But yeah, anybody out there's got questions, let's do it.
Okay. Let's see. The first question is from X Group Home Kid. Does Bill believe curses have to actively be put on, or can they occur from the energy of tragedies?
Oh, and so not only that, in the Bible, scriptures tell us, do not bring a cursed thing into your home, lest you be cursed so we have to be very careful. Some people like to collect antiques and all these types of things. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but if it were me, and here's something that I do, and I don't care if it's something brand new. Nothing comes into my home without me praying over it. So I bind and rebuke anything evil or negative that may be attached to that object. I don't care if it's brand new or not. I bind and rebuke that and cast out all evil and negativity, and then I bless that item. So anything that comes into my home, that's exactly what I do.
Wow. All right. The second question from Unique Annie Armad. Has Bill seen the death spirit just before someone dies?
I really have to think about that. I have felt that spirit, and I have smelled that spirit. I know what the smell of death is, unfortunately. I have looked at people and knew that their time on this earth was coming to an end. And again, this is not my power. This is the power of God. It's holy discernment. And this goes for family members as well that have departed. So I haven't directly seen the spirit of death hovering over the person or trying to take that person from the earth, but I have looked at people and family members and knew that their time on this earth was ending, and can see demons through people's eyes. And again, this is by the gift of God that I can look at people and I know right away if there's something demonic in, on, or around them. I could see it through their eyes.
Oh my gosh. All right, one last question from Cassandra 50. What happens if you are not Christian but have different beliefs?
Well, I've encountered a lot of people like that. I helped a family in Pakistan via Skype. I've also helped people in Egypt and many places like that had different beliefs, and they ended up converting to Christianity. And I'm not twisting anybody's arm to do anything. People are free to make their choices. God gave us free will. But it was miraculous in the sense that through no pressure from me whatsoever for them to do so, I guess by them feeling the power of God and how I go about invoking the power of God through His mighty and holy name, which is YAHWEH, and His Son, the Christos, the Savior, the Anointed One, Yeshua, Jesus, which in Hebrew, Yeshua means Yahweh saves. Yahweh saves through Him. The name Jesus is only 400 years old. That was a made-up Roman name, and I'm not saying that there's no power in it, because God knows our intentions, and when we invoke that name, certainly there's power in it. But I'm just saying the truth of the matter is, His name is Yeshua, and so by invoking the mighty and holy name and powerful name of YAHWEH and His Son Yeshua, there is great power in that, and I think people feel it, and even people of different faiths feel that, and that interests them and intrigues them, and they some have wanted to come and have a personal and close relationship with God. But I've helped people from many different backgrounds, that's for sure.
I have a question for you. What about, like, you asked God for a sign and you got it. I don't know how long it took, but you got it. Well, you got the beeping of the horn. Okay, so if somebody asks for a sign of God from God to let them know, is there really a God? If there's really a God out there, can you give me a sign? And you never get one. Why is that?
I don't understand. And the only thing that I could say is that when I was saying that to God, making that proclamation or that statement to Him, I was sincere. And so I would say to anyone out there who is looking for such a sign to be very sincere. God knows our hearts, and He knows when we are that's a mocking way, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but for those who are out there trying to seek a sign, I would say approach God in the most humble and sincere way as possible and ask him to give you a sign, and whether that would be a passage in Scripture or a horn blowing or a star, anything. Something that you would know beyond a shadow of a doubt. It could be a word in a song. It could be some kind of words that all of a sudden come up on your phone or computer or something. You will know it when God gives it to you. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, you will know the confirmation if and when it comes from God. And I certainly pray that for those out there seeking to know, if God is real, that they would get such a sign.
Mm-hmm. Bill, I have one last question. It's only because
Sure.
my heart breaks when I hear about animal abuse and child abuse. And why does God allow that to happen?
That is something that I truly can't answer. That it breaks my heart. And the only way that I can reconcile this, and certainly this goes back to my own sufferings and my family's sufferings, is that everything happens for a reason. And every man's life touches another in some way, shape, or form. And I always hope that's in a good way. But I can guarantee you, in the course of a day, you are going to have an effect on someone, whether that is positive or negative, in someone's life each and every day. And so every man's life touches another, every path crosses. And why these children have to suffer in this way without divine intervention is heartbreaking and sad for me. But I can't question why God does what he does. The only way that I could reconcile it would be is that by choice, these wicked individuals chose to do these unimaginable, horrific things to these innocent children. And now, by these choices, there will be an answer from God, and it's unfortunate that these poor children had to suffer in these horrific ways. And maybe another show we could do would be on a show just on that, the abuses that are taking place, not just in our country, but around the world with these pedophile rings and all this kind of garbage. But the only way that I can reconcile this would be to say that, these wicked individuals made their choices, and there will be a price to pay for them at some time. I can guarantee you that. And so I wouldn't want to be them for 1 second. But just the same, it angers me, not at God, but it really does anger me to the point, of seeing this type of suffering to where I don't think I would have a whole lot of problem if I were in power bringing in the death penalty. And these types of individuals would no longer be on our earth. I can assure you of that. And I'm a man of God, and I love all people. But I cannot stand to see anyone victimized. It just boils my blood.
Amen to that, honey. Amen to that. Oh, Bill, our hour is up. And Bill, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Again, another awesome show. Again, here is Bill's website. I'm showing a picture of this Bill Bean, the Spiritual Warrior, www.billbean.net. You can also contact him at beanoffice@yahoo.com. And what's your website, Bill?
And I have to say one more thing, and I want to thank you again, sweetie, for having me on. But I got the photograph that you questioned me about earlier.
Yes.
Thank you to Erin. She sent it. That photograph was a UFO, and that was taken in, I believe, 1995 or 1996. And that is the sky. That is the night sky. So that's a silver disc object in the sky with a force field around it. And then to the left, I don't know what that brown stuff is to the left. I don't know if that was some kind of light from something. That's what that picture is, it was a UFO. I took the photograph, I witnessed it, and that was either 95 or 96. So again, we'll talk about that the next time I come back, and we'll have all these photographs to go through. But thank you so much, Noreen. I want to thank everybody out there for watching and listening in, and God bless all of you, and look forward to the next time. And if there's anybody out there that's having any problems, I'm a very busy man, but I'm never too busy to help somebody, so please visit billbean.net. You can email me directly from the site, and my assistant, Melinda, will be back in touch with you as soon as possible. And if you want to get a copy of The Connection or Dark Forest or any of the other books, don't hesitate. billbean.net. You can order directly from the site. And again, I want to thank you, my dear, and I thank everybody out there, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much, and my best wishes to you. Be safe out there. Thank you.
We'll do this again soon.
Oh, we will. Thanks, honey. Good night. Thank you. Good night. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. I just love Bill Bean. Oh, that was a great show. I have so many questions for him. Hey, I want to thank Night Amanda Manon for the super chat money. Oh my God. And Crystal Triplet. Oh my God, honey. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And I want to thank my mods tonight. Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much to my mods. Royce Hinman, Unique Annie, and Crystal Triplet. Thank you guys so much. Everybody in the chat room, thank them. Because of them, we have a wonderful chat room. And if you ever get a chance, go over to Bill Bean and say hi to him on his Facebook page and thank him for being on the show, because it's another awesome show. This is the 4th show I've done with Bill, and I will put up the links to the other shows, but I'm telling you, his story on Dark Force that we aired on all the images that I have, but oh my God, his story it's unbelievable, the story that he has and what the family went through. And I am going to have him back because I want him to post all these pictures. These pictures are crazy awesome, and explain them to everybody. I'm really anxious about that. So everybody, again, I want to thank my mods. And I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Let's do some shout outs. Royce, are you still in there? Let's do some shout outs. Okay, now just bear with me. Starry Night. Okay, let me go to what Royce sent me a message. Let me go back. Wow. Okay. Amanda Mono, Anita Ackerman, B3 Airspace, Bronze Snake. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in ages. And Cassandra 50, hey, haven't seen you in a while. Chipatiri, Cindy, Crystal Triplet, Karen Piote. Are you, you must be, Katie Palmer too. You guys are new. Laura Labratek, Lisa Marie, Margarita Harvorth, I haven't seen you for a while. Michael Kane, bless your heart, honey. Michael Kane is from Florida, from Augusta, Florida. Haunted City. MSTY, Princess Patricia, nice to see you back. Pungai Fungi, Royce Hinman, Shelly Michelle Phillips, Starry Night, haven't seen you for a while, nice to see you back. Trother Girl Karen, you're new. Unique Annie and Mary Still, nice to see you guys back in the chat room. I'm going to Katie Palmer. Is there anybody I missed? Chipateri. There you are, Carl White. Hey, Carl. Carl's my buddy from the UK. It's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He's here every show. Thank you, Carl, for staying up for my show. Thank you. Anybody else that I missed? Lisa Marie. Oh, it's okay, Marie. Thank you anyway, Marie. Lisa Marie, thank you. Anybody else need a shout out? Nellie Moen, thank you. Okay, so next week. Okay, I got my calendar. Where is it? Okay. Oh, okay. Next week, Daniel Kloss is coming back for a second show on the Hinsdale House. Um, he wants to do an update. He contacted me and he said he would like to do an update. He's found out so much more information because when I originally did the show for him, he couldn't answer all the questions because he didn't have the information. But since that show, he's done a lot of research on the Hinsdale House, and I'll show you. I had and during the show next week. The show's next week. I'm doing 4 shows in a row this month. I'll show you the picture I took with him. I met him at the Hornet a couple of weeks ago. There was an event on the USS Hornet, and I met him, and I have a picture with him, and I'll show him on the show that night. And then the last show on the 31st, Andrea Perrin is coming back, and Andrea, I don't know if you know this, had a visit. Her sister passed away. I think it was April. Her name was April, and her sister passed away. Well, guess what? She visited Andrea. So we're going to do a show on life after death with Andrea. And has she had any more visits from her sister? Has she had any conversations with her sister? And has her sister giving her any messages? So we're going to discuss things like that. So that's the show for this month. David Cisneros, hi. Cindy, good night. Good night, guys. Carrie So Very, hey, nice to see you. All right, so I know people are starting to log off now. And June, oh my gosh, June 7th. I have 4 shows in June 7th. Oh, 3 shows. I'm going to Las Vegas. We made reservations last year for Rod Stewart, and we're going to go see Rod Stewart on the week of the third week of the month. But on June 7th, Mark Foltz is coming back, and the show was on taboos. And I got to be careful how I name that show because YouTube will hit me with a tick. So it's taboo stories, really freaky taboo stories that Mark Folt has written a book, and he's been doing all these research on funeral home stories, which we're going to do, taboo stories, which are freaky. He told me a couple of them, and there was one other show he wanted to do with me, and I didn't write the content down. So he's coming back on the 7th. On the 14th, Shane Sirius is coming on the show. I did a show with him with demonic infestations. It was so good. And that's on another channel that I have that I aired that show. I'm going to see if I can bring it back onto my channel and put it here on my channel. And then on the 28th, Michael Fleeman asked to come back. He's a true crime writer. And he wants to do a show on true crime. But his are they're not unsolved crime, but they're true crime that happened, and they have, they actually have the person that committed the crime. And I forget what it was. It's in my messages, but he wanted to come back, said, so sure, I like true crime. So, hi Lily Villalobos, Leonora Morano. Okay, so those are the shows I've got shows all the way through. Oh my God, I wrote somebody down, and oh my gosh, I've got shows all the way. Oh my God, guess what? In August, I'm doing a show on the Ouija board. This girl, L. Sidney Fisher, wrote a book called The Devil's Board, and okay, I'll thanks, Royce. I'll check into that. I'm St. Augustine. I need a guest to do the show on that. Anyway, she wrote a book on the Ouija board, and she named it The Devil's Board, and she has some horrific stories to tell. I found her by accident. I was really anxious to get her back. Oh, and you know what? On September 13th, do you guys remember the show I did with Barry Strom? He he doesn't do the Ouija board, but he does what it's called is a spirit board that he built. And hi, Bethany Warner. It's a spirit board, and he connects. He and his wife are both psychic, and they have this spirit board. And you ask the spirit board questions, and I asked him about the Black Dahlia, and the board wouldn't answer him. It was too dark. I asked him about Day at Love Pass. They wouldn't answer the questions on the Day at Love Pass. There was a couple of cases that he could not get any answers. Lily Villalobos, shout out to Lily. So there's a couple of topics that the board will not. They're just too negative. But he's going to do a live board session on September 13th. And I'm really excited about that. So those are some of the great shows that are coming up. Oh, and I'm doing a show with Vanessa. August 30th. Let me see my other calendar. Oh gosh, where is it? August 30th, Vanessa's coming back. And we're going to do another unsolved mystery show, okay? And then I have a fella also in August that has produced a Karen Ball, that he produced a video on shadow people and real stories on shadow people. And so I invited him to come on the show as well. So I got some really good shows coming up. All right, everybody, I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you so much for being here again. I want to thank my mods, Royce Hinman. Oh, let me see. I got a message from Royce. Royce Hinman, Annie, Unique Annie, and Crystal Triplet. Thank you so much for always being here every week for me. And Princess Patricia, send her your best wishes. She is recovering from open heart surgery. Oh my God, honey. And also, please also send your positive love and light and thoughts to Royce. He is not well, and he, bless his heart, he comes on every week with the other mods, and he needs your best wishes, and keep positive thoughts for Royce, okay? So everybody, with that, I love you and thank you so much. Love having you guys here, and it's just been awesome. And I was really happy with the show tonight. Bill Bean, I'm going to schedule a show with Bill Bean, okay? So everybody, love you guys. Thank you so much. Have an awesome weekend. And so I've got my months ahead are full, so I don't know. I need to fit in Dave Spinks. He wants to come back, and I need to fit him in somewhere, so I don't know how I'm going to do all this. So I had planned to do every other week, but it seems like I've got scheduled every week. But I do need some time. Once in a while, I do need a week off, okay? So love you guys. Help spread the word about the show. I would love to keep building my channel up, and thank you so much, everyone. I love you guys. So I'm going to go now, okay? So love you guys. Good night, and have a great weekend. Love you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for the super chat money. Thank you. Love you guys. Thank you. Good night.